In Florida, it's the home of speed. It's Daytona International Speedway, known the world around for the 500 and for the 24-hour sports car race. It's home to RaceKraft V8 Veterans tonight, live on SimSpeed TV, as we look forward to the Speedway 300 and high speed on Daytona International Speedway's high banks. To bring you SimSpeed TV coverage, David Haynes with Brock Caddy and Daniel Yeaman tonight. So we look forward to 300 Ks of racing at a track that everyone the world around knows well.
G'day everyone, it's great to be back in the comms box here for the RaceKraft V8 Veterans Championship, and as you just said, David, what a track to be at. Daytona is one known world around for sports car racing, but also for Big Bang and V8 racing in NASCAR. So we're bringing our Aussie flavour here tonight, and I think we're going to really enjoy some of the racing out there with high speed on the oval and some really nice, tight, great overtaking opportunities on the infield. I think we're in for a good one.
Not hard to find geographically. I'll refrain from using perhaps the language I want to, but easy to find it on this peninsula of the USA, just north of Cape Canaveral and Space Coast, just south of Jacksonville. Daytona Beach and Daytona International Speedway. We're on the typical sports car road course. This place opened 1959 and they've been hosting racing ever since. The road course configurations had a few changes across the years. The current configuration is 4.8 kilometers and it is massively high speed from the Le Mans chicane all the way around past the start finish line and breaking in towards turn one. But what it does have is two slow horseshoe hairpins in the infield, the West Horseshoe and the International Horseshoe. And there's also high speed out of turn 6 onto the speedway once again and around towards the Le Mans chicane. Just outside of turn 7 there is the indoor go-kart track that I went to, Brock.
Lucky man, it's a dream of mine to make it to this excellent circuit, and I think we're going to see here tonight the guys that have the most bravery, I'm going to put it that way in a nice way, to really throw some moves. Like you can get moves done into the back chicane and into turn 1 after those really high speed straights, or rather the NASCAR turn 3 and 4 there as well. But you've got to be brave about it because it's high speed. But I did read in the supplementary regulations, the admins at V8 Vets have opened up turn 1. So the apron off of the exit of turn 1 is open to use if you want to try and get a run. So that's really good for even for some mind games. They're going to have that ability to use that. So I really like that move from those admins.
And then outside of turns 11 and 12, just off the main road, if you can see the restaurant that's got a circular thing on it, that's an Outback Steakhouse. So if you desperately need a bloomin' onion or a incredibly sensitively presented cocktail on a boomerang, they can do that for you just there. There's also a very prestigious flight school and a lot of flight training based at the airport, where you might just catch a view of a couple of planes coming and going in the background of tonight's racing. But hopefully everyone and our drivers know Daytona International Speedway's road course pretty well, and where those overtaking opportunities are, where the challenges are, and of course the thing to know, it's Daytona, it's high speed as we run on the banking. So in the championship standings, Jordan Ross has a near-perfect record, blemished only last week when Ken Latta was able to take the win away from him. Jordan Ross still stood on the podium and he leads these points with Darren Lobb in 3rd, Wayne Walker in 4th, Scott Mackay, Dean Logsdale, Mark Poynton, Troy Stonestreet, Luke Allman and Stephen Kennedy. This is without any drop rounds counted just yet, but you get an idea of exactly how close it really can be, Brock.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was excellent to see Ken Latta really take it to Jordan Ross. It's been threatening the last couple of races, but he's gotten that win and gotten one over on Ross. So that'll be interesting to see how that carries across into this one. But as you said, we see these biggest movers and biggest shakers before those drop rounds are counted, and one bad race can really shake up that order with the point system being so tight here.
So if you look at it again with drop rounds counted, it doesn't look too much different up top. Almost everyone's done every week. Michael Talianicic jumps a couple of spots up because the drop rounds benefit him as it now erases some of the races that he's missed. Same for John Latham and Michael Whiting as they jump up towards the top mark. Poynton's consistency not so rewarded in these standings, but it's still Jordan Ross from Ken Latta, from Darren Lobb, who've been our top 3 drivers so far this season. And it doesn't flatter Dean Flavel either, who's done every race and finished every race and consistently racked them up, but no highlights, no gigantic highlights that really sort of help once you drop some of your worst results. So that's an idea of where we stand. However you look at it, Jordan Ross is in the driver's seat as we head to Daytona.
Yeah, and taking away those drop rounds really shows you just how tight this is coming into now what is round 8. So there's still a lot to play for out there, and getting those wins and getting one up on Jordan Ross, even though he's been dominant, is going to be so important when we get to those last couple of rounds and the drop rounds are taken off and it's all to play for. So we've still got a lot going on here, and even between 5th and 7th, there's nothing there. A bad race, even just losing a few positions, and that's all going to change up by the end of the night. It's pretty exciting to see.
So what do we have ahead of us? We've got 300 kilometers of racing at Daytona to be a classified finisher, which can be very important. You've got to complete 75% of the race, and that means at least 40 laps here at Mosport. We did see a few drivers with damaged cars sort of slink out of the pits to make sure they could complete enough laps to be a classified finisher. Starting fuel for the fixed setup that we run tonight in RaceKraft V8 Vets is 80 litres, but it's an uncapped fuel tank, allowing them to fill it all the way to 133 litres. It is a gigantic fuel cell that these modern cars have, the Chevrolet Camaro and the Ford Mustang. Perhaps it's a little bit too much at times, but the fuel burn's also high around here with high speeds. A lot of time at full throttle on the bankings means that the total fuel they're going to need to add sits potentially as high as 170 to 180 litres. There'll be 2 compulsory pit stops in the race. The critical lap number for the second stop, we think 25th or 26th lap, you could pit, make your final stop, and be able to get home in this 53 lap race. But it's less manufactured with this kind of race distance. You really are going to have to take a lot of fuel.
Yeah, and with that fuel comes tyre management as well. Like although we say the 25th or 26th lap is that critical lap, that's a long way to go on a heavy to start with that heavy fuel and then make your tyres scream the whole way. So, as always, we do see a bit of change in strategy here. But you're very right, David. With a 300-kilometre race, there's a lot more room for movement with the strategy. We're going to see a lot of guys trying different things to try and get one up on their competitors, and tyres will be the flavour of the night, I reckon, and also a bit of understeer on those heavy fuel tanks.
Yeah, interesting. And indeed, let's take a look at who's racing with us tonight, and with all of the different ways that drivers can score bonus points, including fastest laps, leading laps, taking the pole, racing clean with 0 incidents. Another one, there's a bonus point for signing up on the Zoom wall. So we've got Luke Allman, who's, I think, wearing his camouflage. Oh, he's back. And Dean Logsdale, Dean Flavel, the Dino Dino, is up high at the moment tonight. Jonathan Gallen in his regular attire and his regular pose. And then we've got Dan Hall, Jeff Thomas, Greg Sharps racing in VR. Same angle of David Kirby. Sun's out at Daytona, guns out at Daytona for Kirby. And then it looks like Christian Smart's in VR again. Ken Latta, a winner a week ago. What's he going to cook up at Daytona? Stacey Boyd there racing with the GT rim wheel is an interesting choice. Michael Stewart, he's about to get into his seat. Now he's remembered something. He's going to adjust the angle for us, maybe. Good on you, mate. And then looks like Chad Lewis is the other one on the Zoom wall tonight. A couple of good-looking roosters.
That's for sure. I was just going to say,
David Kirby's a solo man.
I know, and he's got. I think that looks like a 1.25 litre, so he's set to go for hydration for the rest of this race. We'll have to keep an eye on that as the race goes on, and maybe at a pit stop duck in and see what David Kirby's up to, because I expect that bottle to be done by the time we're done racing here tonight.
It's got all the hallmarks of maybe he got some pizza delivered tonight or something. Or maybe he just picks that up as he goes. But the other thing I reckon you could get delivered in the Sydney area was a bit of Chubby Buns Burgers. They've got plenty of locations. I believe they're on all of the delivery apps with multiple stores as well. So who was the Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day a week ago? It's Mark Poynton from Frog Leap Juiced Racing. His Ford Mustang at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, aka Mosport, was voted Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day last round.
Yeah, and well done to him with the most places gained from 34th to 16th. That's a mega drive, and particularly when David, you were mentioning before the broadcast, the field was very tight at Mosport. So well done, Mark. Well earned. And will we see another performance like that tonight from Mr. Poynton? We'll have to keep an eye on him.
Yeah, qualifying was stupid close, and he ended up down in 34th, but finished 16th, gaining many spots. And of course, it was difficult to race cleanly a week ago. How close the field was at Mosport. Lots of checkups at Moss Corner, fast sweeping corners, turns 1, 2, and 3, and then that Andretti back straight that really closed everyone up, but didn't really lead to a big braking and overtaking opportunity. So to move that many spots up and race cleanly, a real challenge at Mosport a week ago. We'll see what Daytona International Speedway is going to bring us tonight. Only 2 minutes away from gridding by the looks of things. It's a racetrack that absolutely everyone should have, so it should be a good turnout tonight. It's a popular racetrack as well. Oh my goodness, I can see the safety cars bump drafting each other on the speedway right now. But let's go to the grid and hope that those safety cars are in good condition so they can deploy if they're needed when we go racing. Jordan Ross, the championship leader, winner of every race but one, is on pole from Darren Lobb, who's shown us a lot of speed at points, led races at points, and is in the top 3 of the championship standings. He'll start alongside on the front row. Behind them, we're going to find Wayne Walker and Ken Latta in 3rd and 4th. John Latham and Scott Mackay 5th and 6th. Good qualifying for these drivers. In what is obviously a very, very close qualifying session based on the margins. You can see Michael Stewart puts the Balin Stewart Foundation Racing Camaro in 7th ahead of Mark Poynton, who has nailed his qualifying tonight. He is not going to be plus 16 positions starting out of 8th. It shows what he's carried over round to round as far as confidence is concerned. And Brock, this top 10 completed by Troy Stonestreet and Dean Logsdale.
Yep, so we'll look to 11th and 12th now with Stephen Kennedy and Dan Hall off that row there. And then we've got behind them Stephen Banks in 13th and Chad Lewis, one of our Zoom wall attendees, in 14th. We'll have Logan Barnett in 15th with Christopher Burridge out of 16th. Jeff Thomas and Stacey Boyd 17th and 18th. And then Tim Nicol in 19th and David Nash in 20th. Good qualifying for Tim Nicol there. He's had some struggles this season, but that's a bit further up the grid than we've seen him in some of the races earlier this season.
39 drivers with qualifying time, so that's about halfway. This is the midfield right here with Wayne Sanderson in 21st and Stuart Hall in 22nd. We can check on his webcam later on. I believe we've got it. Same too for Greg Sharp in 23rd. Michael Whiting will start alongside him in 24th. David Kirby in 25th, Scott McCune in 26th, and then Damian Cairns and Luke Allman on the row behind them. Allman will hope to move up the field towards his teammate Logsdale, and then Jamie McKnight in 29th, Brad Doble in 30th. Chris Miller is 31st.
And yes, sorry, I was just going to say, to round out the field here, Chris Miller 31st, Dean Flavel in 32nd, so he'll have his work cut out for him with the Dino Dyno there. John Gallen out of 33rd, Bruce Tannick in 34th, Darren Crosby 35th, Gary Buckland 36th, and then we've got Stephen Varga and Christian Smart 37th and 38th, and rounding out our 39 car grid is Darren Goosey in 39th as we're approaching race start.
Taliancic, no qualifying time, only driver with no qualifying time. So what about the weather? Looking partly cloudy right now. 18 in the air, 22 on the track. Nary a zephyr means I reckon you could land your Boeing 737 on any runway you please at Daytona Beach International Airport.
That's what you like to hear. Not pushing these cars around too much on these long straights, but it'll mean no headwinds, no tailwinds. It keeps it a bit simpler, and that'll mean the draft will be useful here with no wind around to help push you or hold you back. Getting behind a car and really being able to set up a move will be really, really important.
So, a couple of names to point out of that qualifying inside of the top 10. Michael Stewart in 7th, Mark Poynton in 8th. That's going to be a very interesting row, and it's going to be a very interesting standing start, as about the front 20 of your cars are going to be on one of the more banked parts of the speedway. Is there an advantage to being on the right-hand side on the even-numbered positions of the grid? You start with a little bit more, gravitational potential energy, Brock.
I was never great with my physics, but that sounds about right, David. I think we might see some tyre smoke and a bit of a little bit of drifting here, trying to get off the line and spinning the tyres up. Because, as anyone who knows has done a standing start on the oval here, you do have to be a bit of a master and have practiced it in the week before to get it done right.
10 seconds left on the countdown till the starting procedure begins at Daytona International Speedway. A quick look at the fuel. Definitely going to be 2 stops. Latest you can go on the starting fuel, 18 laps. Critical lap number at 26. We'll see what pit window the drivers opt to take as the V8 engines rev at Daytona, not for the 500, but for the RaceKraft V8 Vets Championship. And it's super tall gear ratio. Some drivers struggling to get away, but not Darren Lobb, as he looks to go around the outside of Jordan Ross for the race lead and then come across and park him on the inside line. Perfect stuff from a perfect launch for Darren Lobb. In the back of the field, they're 3 wide, 4 wide, and there will be some chaos coming from the wide open spaces of the banking and the speedway to Daytona International's infield and its horseshoes.
Yeah, excellent start there for Darren Lobb. Maybe you're right, those even number positions had a bit of an advantage there, but he used that gravitational force beautifully to nab the lead early here in Daytona. Very, very well done, as the rest of the field looks like it's sorted itself out. We haven't seen any incidents pop up just yet, so everyone keeping it clean through now the second of those horseshoes, as Lobb looks to have just settled himself into a nice little lead here, which is exactly what you're going to want coming on to the banking now, where that drafting is going to happen. We're just hearing in the background some calls to race control.
Darren Goosey has, I think, been around, and he's towards the tail end of the field. We had all 40 drivers start in this split one of RaceKraft V8 Vets. Darren Lobb's going to lead them onto the speedway, where the speeds will get high. Jordan Ross will be trying to slipstream off him, and the speeds are already past 290 kilometers an hour. Tall gear stack, 6 gears. And moving through the Le Mans chicane now. Darren Lobb holds that race lead. Dan Hall got a great race launch. So did Dean Logsdale from 10th to 6th. Now, it's all drivers on that outside row on the even-numbered spots. Dropped down the banking, got good momentum going, and gained some spots in towards turn 1. So a bit of shuffling already in this one. Darren Lobb's gone from 0.4 of a second lead down to 2. Jordan Ross cracks the throttle a little bit, I do suspect, in the toe, heading towards turn 1. Ross is playing some games. Darren Lobb will be scored a lap leader. Wayne Walker still sits in 3rd. But Logsdale into 6th. That's an interesting one to see. He's battling with Mark Poynton right now. Yeah, very interesting. You pick up that Ross is feathering the throttle a little bit there and just minding his fuel, and that's going to be a really important thing to do tonight. If you don't want to battle with people and try to run away with it, staving fuel is going to be critical. But Lobb is off there and safe for now. We'll see how long that lasts, but it is a very long 53 laps here tonight that the guys are going to have to settle in for. A biggest mover backwards I just spotted was Scott Mackay, down 8 on his starting position. So obviously he's had a bit of a bad one and just been rattled down. Speaking of rattling, we're rattling doors here. Greg Sharp down the inside here, trying to make a move, sticking to the second horseshoe. The back of the field is busy. Oh, and he's pushed him off. That might draw the ire of race control. He's told Chris Miller, go and check some of the infield camping. So a bit going back and forth between Miller and Sharp. It happening in some other places, like some Florida oranges. There was a bit of a squeeze heading into turn 1 as well on that lap 1. And a few of the drivers have lost spots early. I think that's what happened, is they just ended up the wrong side of it. Miller's trying to get back. He's going to get into Greg Sharp's slipstream, and ding ding, could there be another round of this? On board with Fishy Motorsports' Chris Miller right now, heading into the chicane. I think he'll just fend off McCune.
Yep, well done there. Good recovery from being off the track, and now right up behind Greg Sharp, his sparring partner. So we'll watch here. This will be a really good example of how the draft works at Daytona, and he should be able to get right up to him. We should also mention bump drafting. If you want to work together on the oval, you can bump draft with the car ahead of you and try to push each other forward, essentially. So looks like Chris Miller did have a little bit of damage on the nose of his car, so potentially that's impacting his ability to get into a draft and gain a bit of speed. But in the braking zone, he's got no issues, no such issues. He's right up on the back of Sharp again.
Compulsory pit stop window is open, and the first taker is going to be David Nash. So he's had some issues as well, I think, actually, because it's his second time on the lane. Chris Miller, we still are watching. It happening behind him. Darren Lobb still holding the race lead. Most positions gained goes to Christian Smart, Jonathan Gallen, Mike Teliancic at the moment. Now, this is with Jordan Ross and what he's doing, following the race leader, 0.3 of a second back at the moment. This is the speeds, and I want to see how much gearing we've got, because sometimes I feel like maybe the gears could be a teeny bit taller. Jordan Ross, you see, he begins to close up there, and then he just backs it off.
Lob going a little bit defensive there, just letting him know I'm here to fight this thing out. So Ross is close here. So this could be a move, or we might see his feathering trick again. So as they come to the line, this will be very interesting to see what he does, and also see how Lob reacts and see if he sees Ross as a bit of a threat at this point of the race.
About here we begin closing, and about here we begin lifting. Darren Lobb doesn't want to lead the whole way, but everyone in this top group are willing to let him for the moment. Jordan Ross, and then Wayne Walker's just behind Ross. John Latham and Ken Latta is our top 5. The battle between Logsdale and Poynton for 6th and 7th has seen them drop away a little bit from this leading group. So while there's a little bit of space in the field, the field's a little bit stretched out, you're willing to sit and wait. Massive tank slapper from Lobb out of the horseshoe.
Yeah, he's not looking very comfortable here, but it's as you said with Ross, he's not going to... This is the race no one wants to lead, because you're the one that's going to be using the most fuel and tyres to get this thing done. But Ross is looking a lot more competitive at the moment, and just giving him little bumps and letting him know he's there. And Latham, I've just noticed, has the fastest lap time with his triple draft he's got going on down on the oval, so doing very well there as well. As we see at the top of the screen there, a 146.0 for John Latham with that nice draft. Ross with a little bit of a wriggle onto the oval, but they're off and running again now up to high speeds into 6th gear, coming down to the back of the circuit.
On the back straight, a car length or two. Really got to slow it down to go through the chicane in these cars, dropping it from sort of 290 down about 150 k's an hour, and then picking up the throttle again. Fastest speed that I can see through the field, sort of 300, 301 kilometers an hour. Mark Scaife, eat your heart out.
So again, we're hearing Jordan Ross just rolling out of it. He's absolutely in management mode at the moment. Just he is playing the game. That's exactly what he's doing right now. We're on lap 5 and we're already fuel saving, because at the end of the day, that's time made up in the pits. And Lobb has got a nice line of 4 cars behind him. That's the top 5 all on screen at the moment, who are all just in that nice draft train, all saving a bit of fuel. Mind you, behind Walker, Latham and Latta are both looking a little bit racy.
We get one of our first penalties of the race. It's going to the 1, 2, 3 of Bruce Tannick. So I didn't pick what that's for, but he's going to serve that one immediately and then maybe cross his fingers for a safety car later on. If there's something that happened on lap 1, according to race control, we might have a look a little bit later on. It's interesting what's happening with this sort of top 5. Is the gap to 6th closing? The answer is no, not really. Even with all of this, Darren Lobb still leading this group faster than Dean Logsdale is leading the group in 6th.
And also a little bit of gap coming between Ross and Walker at the moment. So that gap between those two is nearly out to a second. So Walker's dropping off the front two and creating sort of this mini little 3-car pack now, as Latham just looks to be all over the back of Walker. So this will be interesting to see if Latham's going to utilise the same tactics as Ross, or if he's going to try and go for the move and see if he can work his way up to the back of the top 2.
Another view of the giant 3-tier grandstands that make Daytona International Speedway the world's centre of racing. From the banking down into turn 1, bit of a curved braking zone, makes it a long and challenging braking zone. Drivers going from 300 kilometres an hour down to about 90. So that's a lot of work for the brake discs from the front splitter of John Latham right now. That angle is blurred in Japan.
I'm not going to take the bait. I'm not going to take the bait. And we've gone away from that angle. So now looking at the outside angle here as we come into the second horseshoe on the infield. Walker's just gathered it up a little bit. He's had a clean lap and managed to put just enough distance between himself and Latham and Ladder behind to keep himself safe at the moment. But well and truly all to play for here in the top 5, and the drafting keeping them all just together. But David, you're very right. Logsdale continues to fall back further from the back of Ladder, keeping this top 5 separate.
Playing really to the advantage of this top 5 and drivers like Wayne Walker, John Latham, Ken Ladder. So we'll take a look at what unfolded on lap 1, because we were watching the leaders and a great move from Darren Lobb, but it happens here. So that's Tannick into Michael Whiting, and then both of them basically have to stop. Oh, and there's a bit more, a bit of seconds and afters, and that's where Goosey goes around. Now, he either got tagged or he just got squeezed. So I think they're going too wide, and then they have to go around Tannick. And that's where things get tough for Goosey. He's on a tight line. He's getting squeezed a little bit, but that certainly looks like some way, somehow behind he gets tagged and looped around as well. So that's your first horseshoe untanglings.
Otherwise, relatively clean out there. Tannick with the penalty there, and I think it looked like Tannick just rolled a little bit as Goosey came through, and that's where that contact occurred. So he has been penalised and will obviously go to the back of the field with that penalty there. But now we're back watching live at Dean Logsdale and this battle for 6. So this is this second battle pack of the race, and they're nice and tight together as well. We've got
Walker has had a problem. He's dropped back a little bit. He's brought Latham and Latter a tiny bit further back, and that's brought them closer to Logsdale and Poynton. And there's a chance that the toe breaks between Lobb and Ross and Wayne Walker in 3rd.
Yeah, very good catch there, David, and you're exactly right. This will leave Walker out to dry a little bit, and this is where that bump drafting might come in handy if these guys want to keep playing the strategy game, the fuel-saving game. And realistically, when they're out of contact with that draft, it's the thing they've got to do if they want to have a chance at getting back to Ross and Lobb. Otherwise, they're going to just fall back into the clutches of that Dean Logsdale in 6th and their little battle pack they've got going on. Watching from the back of Walker here at the moment, doesn't look like it doesn't look like Latham's going to get horribly close here. So Walker can take a sigh of relief. Still very much got the eyes on Ross there, and in fact has taken about 3/10 out of that gap. So he's just eking his way back into contention there, as I think we've had a move there for Ladder and Latham.
Ken Latta moves up into fourth. He was rolling around in fifth for a second. He does move ahead of John Latham.
So last week's race winner, he's on the move. He sees there's an opportunity here, but now he's got to race up to the back of Walker. And obviously with that move being made, he's just slowed himself up a bit here. So he's going to have to put in a couple of good qualifying laps almost. Make sure he's right in that draft, and then hopefully get up to the back of Walker and they can do something with it.
This is Ken Latta. I've seen this a couple of times. Actually really tough work coming out of turn 6. Just when you hit the banking and go from the infield and the apron up onto the banking, suddenly you had a lot of wheel work to do. And I've seen even Jordan Ross do similar, and others, as they're just beginning to roll into the throttle. They haven't quite straightened the car out, haven't quite got to full throttle, just as they catch that little lip heading into the banking. Wayne Walker's working hard there to try to close in on the top leaders. He got just a little squirrely coming out of the Le Mans chicane.
Yep, you can see already these heavier fuel loads. We started with 80 litres. That's still quite a bit of fuel on board. With these high-speed corners as well tend to take a bit out of the tyre. So we're at lap 8 now, and you can just see that tyre management's got to come into it a little bit more now and really become part of your strategy. Is now we're looking back at Latham on Ladder, who has not let Ladder get away with this one. I'm sure Ken would have loved to have run away and up to the back of Walker, but Latham is keeping him honest.
So keeping an eye on first and second, they were bump drafting across the start-finish line last lap, trying to get away from Wayne Walker, Ken Latta and John Latham. Jordan Ross trying to create a split up front here. I don't think it's worked, to be honest, but he was trying it. We have not seen a whole lot of bump drafting. Has a chance to really go south. At least a lap ago, Jordan Ross was trying it.
Yeah, and Ross continuing just to stay behind there. So we'll watch now from the back of Lob's car. This will be the run. If he's going to do some bump drafting, he's right there. So we'll see if anything comes out of this. But you're very right, David. They're trying to create that gap. But Wayne Walker's just staying in there with them at the moment. Here we go. He's ranging up on him. Is he going to do it? Oh, got to wait until it's square. Yep, right in the back of him. That's some real NASCAR Daytona stuff. They're truly taking in the spectacle of the place there, but trying to use that extra speed that Ross has got to bump Lob along. But Walker's in that draft, and he is raking in a tenth or two now each lap once they come out of the bus stop.
Yeah, so they're connected multiple laps in a row as they cross the start-finish line, so the lap time's near identical for Lob and Ross. And not quite able to shake Wayne Walker, but that's going to put some pressure on Ken Latta to try to up his speed if he can catch them. I think, Logan Barnett might be have been making a move or two. I think him and Troy Stonestreet for inside of the top 10 have exchanged one spot or two. Right as we look at them, they are well wide in the horseshoe.
Yep, that's the old commentator's curse, right? So that was Logan Barnett. I don't think he lost a position there. He just was way wide. So he'll continue racing on. He's got that draft on Stone Street as well. So again, a few cars here that's linking onto that battle pack for the back of the top 10 that we've been talking about a bit in these first few laps. But already up for Logan and looking pretty racy to continue going up the standings, as now we're looking at Stephen Banks and Stephen Kennedy. It's the Stephen party coming down the back straight here at the moment.
Yeah, Scott, Steve and Steve, 12th, 13th, 14th, going through the Le Mans chicane right now. 10 laps into this one, and we have not seen anyone take an unforced pit stop just yet, so the strategy appears to be run long And you are going to need to take quite a lot of fuel at both of your stops, this being a 300-kilometre race at a high-consumption racetrack. I've been on board and seen you're getting into sixth gear and you sit north of 7,000 RPM at full throttle, and that is going to go through your fuel mighty, mighty quick. Here comes Kennedy towards Banks and just rolls the throttle out 50, maybe even 100 metres early as they then roll through and in towards turn 1. Ooh. This looks like a bad downshift, doesn't it? Smoke coming out of the engine for Christian Smart.
Yeah, and we just saw the meatball flag come out, so I reckon that's very much a dead engine at the moment. And I think that one will take a second or two to repair, unfortunately. Never what you want to see, but these cars are tricky with their downshifts. You've got to be really careful about not going through the gears too quickly, or else that can happen. As we now have the replay up on screen, coming into the bus stop. Down, so that's third. Well, I was third a little bit too early. It was.
We rode on board earlier with Jordan Ross, and actually it's in the middle of the chicane that he dropped down to third before the third apex. So if you're shifting down to third too early, where is it? Just there, just as he's turning in, that downshift is too early. Has done a lot of damage to the engine, obviously, and he's dropping smoke, dropping everything on his way towards the pit lane. I just had a look. We got 40 drivers. This racetrack has 40 pit stalls, and he qualified 38th. That's why he had to turn down to his pit stall so early.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Perfectly designed Daytona for V8 Vets. Now we've got Ross right on the back of Lob again, but just using that pushing. He wants to bump draft him. He wants to stay here. So for now, Lob's position is safe, but I'll draw your eye to Wayne Walker, who has caught up about half a second in a couple of laps here and is not looking to wait around. He's looking, he's searching, he's trying to keep these guys on their toes. So this could get in the way of Jordan Ross's perfect race strategy to save fuel.
And that top three just beginning to create a bit more space. The field spread slowly happening, even though this is a very high slipstream drafting pack racing style of racetrack. Ken Latta and John Latham are becoming an island all of their own, ahead of Dean Logsdale's pack, Scott Mackay's pack, Chad Lewis's pack, Jamie McKnight's pack. There's a lot of 5-6 car packs that have formed the way that this racetrack and its high average speeds, long full throttle applications work. It just clumps the drivers, but it's not one long unbroken train. You're seeing the field beginning to just spread in a couple of places. On board with Logsdale in 6th, looking backwards.
Yeah, and that's a pretty impressive shot showing you the degree of the banking, as well as all the cars and how they're trying to stay in the stream and follow Logsdale wherever he is on the track there. So always love looking back and seeing that snake of cars and how they follow through a corner. Through the bus stop here is pretty cool as well. But Logsdale's actually done well through there. He's just created a little bit of gap to Mike Poynton. So Poynton now might be the one under fire, but I think a lot of these guys here are using a similar tactic to Ross. It's all about that fuel saving. We know you've got to try put in as much as you can. So saving some could mean valuable seconds in this race. And particularly where you have these tight packs, it could mean beating the guy that's trying to chase you.
One of my friends raced a Lexus here, and he said at full speed you actually don't notice the banking that much, but under safety car you feel like you're going to fall out of the driver's window.
I can imagine it. You'd be almost hanging. You'd basically be hanging if you weren't strapped in so tight. You'd be hanging into your door and lucky it's there.
So it's getting a bit tight here. I think we pointed out lap 18 as the end of the starting fuel, the 80 litres of fuel that everyone started with. Well, lap 13 now. So maybe in a lap or two's time we see a little bit more elbows out. Definitely seeing Dan Hall maybe beginning to challenge Mark Poynton in behind this group. Hall's already plus 4 positions in this race. He's taking a shallow, straighten up the car exit to a lot of these slow corners through the infield. Logsdale runs it a bit wide in 6th. Poynton also late apex, straightening the car, getting the throttle on towards the banking. Dan Hall's got the perfect view of it, and we've got the perfect view of Dan Hall. Oh, he's putting extra banking on his head.
Yeah, he is feeling the banking. You can see that he's tilting his head. So maybe that goes back to the gravitational forces conversation we had at the start of the race, David. But Dan Hall looks locked in. We've seen a couple of impressive performances from him, and he's already up 4 in his ERT supercar there. So we'll see what he does here. He seems to be pretty happy just sitting behind, as with everyone else at the moment. But already up 4, I reckon there could be a bit more pace in Dan Hall to work his way a couple of positions up from where he is now.
Oxdale going low towards the yellow line and the apron. Mark Poynton has got such a good run and so close to him, and Hall not really closing in on that double draft. So maybe he's also doing some savings, but then the braking in towards turn 1, he seems to close up a lot. Tim Nichols going to be one of the first drivers we see make a sort of unforced pit stop here, looking for a little bit of an undercut potentially in the 23. So he's hit the lane while everyone else looks to run long in this 300-kilometre RaceKraft V8 Vets race, the Speedway 300 from Daytona.
This will create a really interesting strategy situation, because our critical lap is like 25 or 26 here, so we're not that far from it. Now the guys will have to come in before we reach that lap, but if they do a full fill for their first stop, it'll create a bit of a splash and dash situation almost towards the end. So I'll be curious to see how all of our drivers manage fuel load. But back to the track, we've got Stacey Boyd here leading his very own pack out there on track, with Christopher Burridge, David Kirby, Jeff Thomas and Luke Allman fighting for 16th back to 20th. Boyd's got a little bit of breathing room here, so he can take a breath, he can rest, take one hand off the wheel, but I don't think Burridge is so lucky behind, as we've got the onboard here as well from the zoom wall with that GT wheel you remarked at earlier, David, as well. I struggle to race supercars with a GT wheel. I don't have enough fuel in the car.
That doesn't feel right. So we saw that the total fuel drop was going to be about 170 litres. Maybe you go 85 litres each stop. You could stop now and be able to get 85 litres into the car, I reckon. So maybe that's what Tim Nichols gone for. A relatively long stop for him of 46 seconds. I think we are going to see some long stops, and we're going to see a couple more happen right about now. That's Burridge and Allman and some others going for pit lane. Damien Cairns pulls down from the speedway as well. So the end of lap 14, the beginning of lap 15 sees a couple of cars elect to pit.
Yep, so we'll start to see, I think, a few more go in shortly, because they'll be covering off those around them. As now we've got Boyd is looking at the back of, I think that's Chad Lewis there up ahead of him. Who wasn't quite that close just before. So that's an interesting one, but I'll be curious to see.
Last lap slow from Lewis in the 148s. Absolutely everyone else ahead doing 147s.
Yeah, so maybe he's made a mistake, gotten a slowdown potentially as well, like that'll do it, but that's given Boyd some draft there to help protect him against the battle pack ranging up on that 16th place car.
Christian Smart took his repairs and his new tyres, and he's actually in clean air doing pretty good pace in the 147, so maybe there is a little bit of a tyre undercut to be had. Quite often the large fuel tanks and heavy weight of fuel mean overcutting can be the way to go, but around here maybe it's slightly different, and we'll see a few more drivers pit this time. Darren Lobb, Jordan Ross, Wayne Walker all stay out, your top 3 in the lead. We expect to look to go long, especially Ross and Walker saving some fuel. And now Dean Logsdale from 6th, Logan Barnett from 11th. So we're going to get a wave of our first pit stops and drivers clearing their first of 2 CPS in this race.
Yep, this will be curious to see now that we're starting to get some of these, this top 10 in. I'll be very curious to see what fuel they put on. We'll keep an eye on that once they're in the box. Back on track here, Stacey Boyd, I just said he had some breathing room. I take that back. He does not anymore. As we're coming through the International Horseshoe here, and it is all to play for in this battle pack. So with David Kirby right up behind him and looking like he wants to make some moves before ducking into the pits in what I'm sure will be the next few laps. Jeff Thomas pretty close behind as well, but David Kirby's I thought he was going to go for a move at the International Horseshoe and he managed to keep out of it, but the car is looking better and tighter than Boyd at the moment. He's right up close, so the place to do it would be try and get a run. He's looked to the inside again there. He's playing some mind games here with Boyd just to try and put him off.
Yeah, different lines from them through the infield, and we're just trying to fend him off. David Kirby trying to go with a tight exit on a few of these corners. Back on the speedway, this will be to the end of 16 laps, so maybe they've got 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 more laps of fuel to go. A lot of the pit stops we've seen in the 35 to 40-second range, though Chris Burridge had a 49-second stop, so he must have brimmed that thing at that point. So I guess maybe you pray for a safety car there. Darren Lobb, Jordan Ross, pit. Wayne Walker goes into the lead of the race as almost everyone else is coming in. There's a few drivers staying out. There's a few drivers locking up and maybe getting speeding penalties like Mark Poynton speeding on pit lane.
Yep, that's an unfortunate one. We saw the lockup as he beelined it towards the grass there, and unfortunately that's going to be a hefty penalty for Mark. And what was a good performance so far. So Walker now out of the International Horseshoe and burning rubber by the looks of it. So those tyres are looking pretty spent, but we've also got Ladder and Latham in as well. So Walker's the Lone Ranger from that top 5 out there still. I'm really interested. This is a great camera view to see who gets off pit lane first here. So Ross has got the pit box at the front there, but Lobb came in first. So let's see. They're all around that 30-second mark we were talking about before. I can hear the engines up.
No, Lobb.
Lobb's out. And with a pretty good margin there too.
That's important that Latter's going to be right with Jordan Ross. A lot of the other races, I think we've seen Lobb and Ross take quite a bit of fuel at their first stops, and some of the other drivers get a bit more track position, a bit less the first time around. We're going to take a look at Mark Poynton. Should he get a little bit of help? Oh, he's pitting in, and he speeds on pit lane because the guy behind pushes him. He's down behind the apron, and the driver behind him follows him, pushes him. Mark, take a look at this. Is the contact before or after? It's clear that Poynton is pitting.
I'd venture a guess that after, because he was right off and following that pit entry line. That's a dicey one. That's a very dicey one. Obviously, Dan Hall can't see a lot in that position because he's just got a car in front of him, but that'll be a hairy one for race control to unpick because Poynton's got to serve that penalty pretty soon. And we've now got Michael Stewart's picked one up as well, and Poynton, has served that one. So regardless of the cause, he's now unfortunately lost all that time to that speeding penalty, which is an iRacing serve penalty as well. We should make that clear.
Yeah, so let's look at Michael Stewart. He's just got a tiny bit wrong. How to lock up, how to slide. You've got to be doing 88. And then he doesn't engage the limiter. So it's not, he's been distracted engaging his limiter because of the lockup and the slide. He did get it down to speed, but then he forgot to engage the limiter because he was busy and otherwise engaged elsewhere. So that one, a little bit more of a driving error than question mark about Mark Poynton. Does Dan Hall get a penalty out of that? Everyone stopped. Wayne Walker, 34 seconds. Where's he going to come out compared to these other guys? I reckon Wayne Walker's going to hold on to the race lead here.
He had about a 4 seconds slower pit stop than Lobb and Ross, and 4 seconds quicker than Lobb and Ross, and 3 seconds quicker than Ladder. So he has jumped them with some good pit strategy there, and is now out front here. So wow, we said strategy would be an interesting one here, and it has been. So Walker out front, Lobb, Ross, Ladder, and Latham are your 5, but Walker with a 3 to 4 second fuel disadvantage at the moment out front, but with that all-important track position.
Yes, so if he can keep up some pace, it's good for Walker, but if they catch him, then he's got a 5 second longer final stop, and it'll absolutely cook him. If there's a safety car, I reckon it'll cook him. So for Wayne Walker, this is high risk, You've also got the opportunity and the chance that Jordan Ross pushes Darren Lobb up towards Wayne Walker and the race lead. Doesn't look like Ken Latter's quite been able to go with the slipstream. And then John Latham in fifth. Quick stop from Troy Stonestreet's jumped him a few and into sixth. Wayne Walker's going to get a slowdown penalty from cutting the Le Mans chicane. And it's going to cost him dearly. He was trying to lap on Bruce Tannock, I'm pretty sure it is. And he's gone too deep, cut the course, and he'll have to slow down and give up the time gained, which is not very much at all, but you've got to stay on the racetrack in these circumstances. Darren Lobb's at speed and hunting him down.
Yeah, an unfortunate one, that one, with the unlapping of Tannock there. He just overcooked it a little bit into the bus stop, which is one of the easiest things you can do at this track. It's such a fine line to get that right. But now we look back, that gap has reduced significantly now to Lobb. It was about 2.2, 2.3 seconds. That's now down to 1 second and well and truly within draft range as Lobb is setting fast laps of the race, as Tannock is just making it difficult for the leaders to work their way through here on this first lapped car of the race.
Yeah, an absolutely monumental lap there from Darren Lobb and Jordan Ross as well, trying to cut down Wayne Walker. The fastest lap of the race goes to Darren Lobb, but Jordan Ross was even quicker, and he's got an off track somewhere. So a 1:45.5 last lap from Jordan Ross. Really quick pace. They were going to begin to haul in Wayne Walker regardless, I thought. Wayne Walker's had just a bit of interference that he didn't need. Now, what am I hearing from race control? Dan Hall's going to get a drive-through penalty for making contact with Mark Poynton as Poynton was heading to pit lane.
All right, well, we said it'd be a hairy one for race control to pick apart. They figured it out. Now it's a bit of a hairy one for Dan Hall, so we'll expect him into the pit lane shortly to serve that one. Bit of a rare case. I don't think I've ever seen that at Daytona before, but I guess there's something new every day, right? But here we are looking off the bonnet of Lobb now, having cleared that lapped car of Tannock. The gap is about 1.7. So Walker's managed to excuse the term here, but walk that one out a little bit. But you just have to imagine with Lobb and Ross setting some PB times and being able to bump draft each other, there's going to be a little bit in this. And if they could work together, maybe that's the play. But so far, Walker's keeping a bit of that gap to himself and trying to make sure his advantage stays in play.
Dan Hall comes to serve his penalty. I don't think anyone ran him up the back as he was heading for pit entry that time. So who's got a long stop that could really benefit from a safety car or something else? Stacey Boyd, 42 seconds. Interesting. Long first stop, looking to gain some of it back in the second stop. 38 seconds for David Kirby and Dean Logsdale. 48.5 for Burridge, I think we pointed out, would have absolutely brimmed it rather than just take, 90 litres or 100 litres. Probably gone for near to 133. And then the other drivers who sort of maybe short-filled a little the first time around. David Nash, Wayne Walker, Scott Mackay potentially, then also Damien Cairns. Greg Sharp in 34th would have also brimmed his tank. He stopped after 16 laps, while Burridge stopped after 14. So I think both of them would have brimmed it. The difference is they stopped 2 or 3 laps apart. Greg Sharp running late.
Oh, Poynton's off
the road.
Oh, just a bad to worse situation for Mark Poynton tonight, I think, and we were singing his praises earlier after a great performance at Mosport, but unfortunately that speeding penalty after that contact has brought him apart a little bit, as Ross is going to overtake Lobb for second place here, something he wasn't willing to do in that first stint. He has gotten that done into turn 1, so Lobb's going to come back at him here. They're side by side now through turn 2. Nope, Ross will take that one decisively as we head down into the International Horseshoe.
Now maybe Jordan Ross thought Darren Lobb wasn't catching Wayne Walker quick enough. Maybe there was a slowdown or something for Darren Lobb that we didn't catch, but Jordan Ross needed to do quite a bit of work down the inside of turn 1, running it wide on the exit, and then come across and park in Darren Lobb, costing them both a little bit of time, battling for second and third. What can an unleashed Jordan Ross do in clean air? Can he run down Wayne Walker's race lead in the middle stint of this race?
Yeah, be very curious to see, because if Lob can't stick with Ross and give a bit of bump draft support, this is going to be all on Jordan Ross to find whatever he can in that car and get to Walker, because that's at 3 seconds now. We're knocking on the door of that fuel gap. Yeah, that's 5 seconds that Walker's got to get on Jordan Ross, and he's 60% of the way there. So long way to go in this stint, a lot more to play out, but a positive start for Walker. And Ross finally going, I need to get through and stretch my legs here.
Trying to keep a really tight and tidy line through the chicane. I think that's where Jordan Ross makes a little bit of speed, but also maybe where he got that off track on his fastest lap of a 1:45.5. Ross and Lob, as they battled on the previous lap, lost time to Wayne Walker. They battled on this lap, they might lose a tiny bit more time to Wayne Walker, but then we'll see what Jordan Ross can do. Dean Logsdale, Stephen Banks, Stephen Kennedy. Stephen Dean. Yeah, attorneys at law.
Going for the move here into turn 1 around the outside. Stephen Banks. This is a difficult one to make work. No, he's going to slot back in here. Yeah, around the outside, and these supercars in particular with not too much downforce and not a lot of grip. That is a hard ask, but he'll slot back in, pick his next opportunity and go for it again, I'm sure. As he takes quite a tight line there, he's really trying to put Logsdale off and see if he can get into him. But Logsdale got a great exit there, and Kennedy, the two Steves, are now line astern fighting each other. So that's all to play for at the back of the top 10.
Yeah, Stephen Highbanks and Stephen Kennedy Space Center here on the Florida coast, battling it out. I reckon Banks had a bit of a lock-up going in there. He was looking sort of shallow on Dean Logsdale, locked it up a little bit, pushed a little bit wide. Will now need to sort it out, settle himself down. They're just behind Logan Barnett and Scott Mackay. Quick stop for Mackay, longish stop for Barnett, and then those two have ended up together in this sort of fringes of the top 10 stuff. Some of the longest stops inside of the top 10 are Jordan Ross, Darren Lobb, Logan Barnett, and Dean Logsdale.
So we're here
on there from Banks.
Yeah, very good run for Banks. They're just coming around down to lap 23. So far out, this has flown by. We must be having fun because we're nearly halfway through this race. That's crazy to say. That'll mark the 150-kilometre mark. But Banks is looking good here, as you said, David. And Logsdale is keeping it ultra tight. He's trying to maintain this ninth place, one up on where he started. And Banks can't find a way through at the moment. Logsdale just seems to have that little bit extra where he needs it to get an exit or defend and brake a little bit heavier and keep Banks behind him and feed him back to Stephen Kennedy behind. So curious little battle pack, this one. Wherever Logsdale is weak, Banks can't get past him, and then he just exercises those strengths to stay ahead.
Western Horseshoe. You can't park your RV on the access roads, guys. Come on, got to keep that clear.
Someone get an admin down there.
Oh, mate, get the biggest tow truck you can find, and we'll have a salvage auction or something. David Kirby, Luke Allman, Wayne Sanderson, looking from on high. They come out onto the banking. Kirby and Allman, bunch of positions gained in this one. Luke Allman plus 12. Not any gigantic, games happening either. So I think they've just been tidy in a rather chaotic mid-pack. We saw that the critical lap number might be around lap 26. So do we get a second flurry of pit stops early when we reach that critical lap number? Or do these drivers who've taken a lot of fuel at their first stop look to run the cars light with a long middle stint till they're nearly empty and then take the fuel that they need to get home? That's a question that'll unfold over the next 3 or 4 laps.
Yeah, well, those early stoppers will be the real interesting ones to see what we get out of that. Like if I look here, we've got a David Nash stopped very early, so he looks like he stopped on in the first few laps there and is up the field quite a bit, actually, just behind that Logsdale battle pack. But I imagine he'll have to pit pretty soon. But everyone else, most other people are on pretty short stints at the moment, so I reckon we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this one and past that critical lap number, because some of these guys are going to want to use their tyres a little bit before they've got to splash that fuel in there.
Wayne Walker's holding his race lead, which is interesting to see. So he's got about 3 seconds in the pocket, considering that we thought his stop was about 5 seconds shorter. He's still tracking for podium as Wayne Walker, but he's running all by himself. Jordan Ross and Darren Lobb have done their swap, where Lobb led almost the whole of the first stint. Jordan Ross leading a lot at the moment. John Latham closing in on Ken Latta. Jordan Ross's last couple of laps not counted, or they're just taking a second to load? They've just taken a second to load.
I was just thinking a similar thing there, because I was really curious to see what he's doing, and it looks like it's just kicked in there on my end here, and Walker and Ross have done near identical laps, a 1:47.207 and a 1:47.222. So, and Lobb behind Ross has done a 1:47.182. So these guys are punching out some pretty quick laps, particularly for Walker and Ross without any draft there. They are rapid at the moment, and Ross just cannot eat into Walker's lead at the moment.
Stephen Banks versus Dean Logsdale for 9th and 10th gone back and forth a couple of times on this lap. I think they were side by side heading in towards turn 1 and then towards the horseshoe. Logsdale's managed to hold on, but Stephen Banks definitely had a go. I think that Banks and Kennedy are running a little bit lighter at the moment on slightly fresher tyres, but will need a longer second stop. So this is sort of, the battle where Logsdale can hold on. He'll be in a better spot later on, but right now Banks might have a tiny bit more speed.
Yeah, and we've seen that Banks is looking quite racy, like he's trying to find his way around, and he really is searching, but Logsdale's making it work, and it's a very good point, David, that if he can just keep his car there, he's got that fuel advantage already, so he will be a few seconds up the road if he can just stick in here. So, and great graphic there on the left showing those last pit stop times. So he's got a couple of seconds on Stephen Banks directly behind him, and nearly a couple of seconds as well on Stephen Kennedy. So
Stephen Vargas requesting a tow. The 868 car is stopped on the banking. Here it is. Has he also done a premature downshift and launched his V8 motor? No forward movement. No drive. I can't see the car from behind to see if the warning light's on.
He's blown it at the bus stop again. Not again, sorry, but it's another car, as he's at a very similar point to Michael Stewart. And the car's died.
I feel like that's simply got to be a safety car, and we're going to get one on lap 26 of the Speedway 300 for RaceKraft V8 Vets at Daytona. A couple of cars have dived for the pit lane, and we are right on the critical lap number where drivers could make their second stop, their compulsory pit stop. Wayne Walker still leading from Jordan Ross and Darren Lobb as we go safety car at Daytona.
Yeah, it was a similar, I had a quick squiz on board with Stephen Varga, and it was the exact same situation as Michael Stewart. That shift down into third as he came into the apex was pretty much what did it to him, so unfortunate there. But now it's thrown, I would say, a big old spanner in the works for some of these guys who are looking to run long, and we were just talking about how the last thing Wayne Walker needed was a safety car, and it's exactly what's come to fruition here. So be curious to see if any of these top 5 pit or whether they decide to keep it going. But if Wayne Walker continues on, he will have Ross and Lobb right up behind him with the draft. So they're just now coming around now to the pit entry, so we'll see if any of them dive in.
Surely you gotta stop, and we're gonna see Wayne Walker head towards pit lane. Lock it up a little bit. Everyone's doing it. But look at that. Ross and Lobb stay out. Wayne Walker stops. It is 27 laps to go. Interesting. Ken Latta, John Latham. I think you're going to see almost everyone stop. Is this going to become a problem for Jordan Ross and Darren Lobb that they have stayed out?
Got more trouble coming out of this safety car period. A couple of calls to race control. Oh,
Jordan Ross has gone by the safety car.
we're just listening to some comments from drivers who are understandably confused. Yeah, there's a bit of conjecture in the voice chat at the moment, which as viewers you can't hear, but a lot of drivers are a little bit confused about the procedure here, and obviously Jordan Ross and Darren Lobb, probably two of the more confused, having missed a pickup from the safety car there, so they've gone round again here to then pick up the safety car on their next ride through.
So who hasn't stopped is a question. Taliancic, Wayne Sanderson, Gary Buckland, Stewie Hall, Greg Sharp, Michael Stewart has stayed out. Jordan Ross and Darren Lobb are going to stop. So they've gone a lap around and now they're stopping. Does that mean they thought a lap before they wouldn't be at the critical lap number, but now they are? Is that how close we are? Is that how close drivers like Wayne Walker, Ken Latta, John Latham are going to be?
It wouldn't surprise me. Where I think that safety car got thrown on lap 26, which was the 25 or 26 was the critical lap. So, that's you're going to be tight if you pitted on that lap, and that's pretty much when Wayne Walker went in. Albeit a safety car is going to help that because they can do a bit of fuel saving. But these guys, Lobb and Ross, will be guaranteed to be okay on fuel now.
Can you imagine anyone in a supercars endurance race gaining an advantage from passing the safety car when they were meant to stay behind it?
I can imagine the furore on social media afterwards of all the fans jumping on it, but definitely not an advantage.
Wayne Walker's ended up behind some lapped cars. Wayne Sanderson with a penalty. Scott Mackay with a penalty. Safety car has... Yeah, Jordan Ross and Darren Lobb passed the safety car. No one else has. Jordan Ross and Darren Lobb are going a lap ahead of the whole field.
You've got, I think, Wayne Sanderson as well is out ahead there with Taliancic, Ross and Lobb.
So gee.
Sorry to the viewers, we're all trying to unpack this and make some sense of it so we can explain it to all of you, but there's just a bit of work going on in the server at the moment to make sure the safety car has picked up the correct driver.
Here's Wayne Sanderson. We're looking at his pit exit. Oh, he's unleashed the safety speed limit too early, hasn't he? The old line, not the new one, which is around the outside here.
Easy mistake to make. I still make it when I'm practicing for the Daytona 24 hours when I go, yep, I'm ready to rock and roll. And you go, oh, they've changed it, even though it's been in place for years. It's an easy one to get excited and get on the lead foot and disengage. So, but unfortunately results in a penalty, as now we've seen Ross and Lob catch up to the back of the safety car train.
Race Control have a lot of work to do. I imagine you wave everyone but Ross, Lob, Taliancic and Sanderson around the safety car, don't you? Michael Stewart's the only driver that hasn't pitted with this safety car.
I think you're right there, David, because otherwise they're going to, if those guys get to go up, they're going to be a lap ahead of the whole field.
So you do that, you wave everyone but Ross, Lob, Taliancic, Sanderson around, everyone's on the same lap, and then you penalise anyone who passed the safety car when they shouldn't have.
Yeah, correct. So there's going to be a lot for Race Control to unpack here.
So 3 or 4 things to digest, and you've got to do them sort of separately in order. Could mean this ends up being a relatively long safety car. Probably gives a lot of comfort margin to everyone who thought they were on the bubble vis-a-vis the critical lap number. Race Control is just beginning to do what you and I thought maybe was the way to go. This sounds like a very significant safety car wave around.
Yep, so they're just listing off the numbers of all the drivers who get to go around, and that's exactly it. Is now they'll let all those drivers loose to essentially reset the field to the order it should be in, while keeping those drivers we talked about before in place behind the safety car. And that'll, so to speak, cleanse the field. And then you were saying earlier as well, David, that the next step is who drove past the safety car when it was out on track and what sort of penalty then comes from that. But that's going to be a bit more messy to figure out for Race Control.
Here we go, most of the train. Safety car crawling.
All right, so we've got the field now. Absolutely rip snort around Daytona International Speedway to catch back up to the back of the safety car. We're hearing from Race Control, essentially they will get everyone back in order, so take a lap or 2 to get that happening, and then they'll assess the situation and we'll see if we can go back racing from there. So what we'll have is most people on some brand spanking new tyres that haven't worked too hard, fueled to the end, and all bunched up. So that sounds like a pretty interesting spectacle to me. I don't know about you, David.
So Wayne Walker leading of the group of drivers going around at the moment. Ross, Lob, Taliancic and Sanderson in behind the safety car right now. So the first bit that we thought is what ought to happen has happened, which is everyone goes around and we end up with the whole field of everyone who should be on the same lap back on the same lap. So it's about 1 infield apart between Walker and Jordan Ross at the moment. And the question becomes, Did Jordan Ross, Darren Lobb, Mike Taliancic and Wayne Sanderson pass the safety car when they shouldn't have?
Race control still working hard to get this field back up. They've just reduced the speed of the safety car to 60k an hour to help everyone else catch right up to the back here of this safety car train. And we're just hearing there might be a bit more to unpack, to use that word again, where someone may have served their penalty under safety car, which is not allowed. And we've still got we've still got voice chat going off here. So yeah, the driver's still trying to figure some things out here, but we should have a line of traffic shortly in this one.
So Walker's back to the train. The rest of the field's just going to begin to catch the train forming up on the back straight on the way into the Le Mans chicane. 23 laps to go, and an immense amount happening for race control and safety car.
Yep, so that's...
You still got drivers in like the 30th or so, like John Gallen, that are just to catch the field as well. So sure, it's one thing to see Walker come around and catch the group, but then for the whole rest of the field that were waved around one by one by one by one to come catch the safety car trains, taking a second.
Yep, that's it. We've got to remember it's a 1 minute 45 lap here, and 46-47 lap here, and that's under... Well, we've got a bit of congestion actually coming out of the bus stop because it is a 60k an hour safety car train. Everyone's done a really good job there to avoid any incidents. But yes, it is a long lap. But I think, keyword think, we've got a complete field now all lined up behind the safety car.
Now it's the regular wave arounds to happen. So some lap down cars, or that were still a lap down, going to get sent around.
Yeah, that's it. So this is the regular safety car procedure we see here in V8 Vets, which is just cleansing the field of any lap cars and making sure that they can get their lap back, but also not in the way of anyone battling for position. And usually this means we're not too far away from some start racing again.
So Walker got picked up by the safety car, was doing safety car speed while Ross and Lobb went around to the pit lane. That's how he ended up behind them in this. Same for Taliancic and Sanderson.
We've got a slew of incident reports coming in now to race control, so they better have their they better have their words permitted working quickly over the keyboard in this one to write them down into the spreadsheet and get ready for review. But run packed here, and I think pretty much everyone now is cleansed except Michael Stewart. Still hasn't pitted. Now Stewart had the blown engine earlier and has repaired, so he pitted at last stop was lap 18, so he can still go a little bit further in this one. But with the safety car, I can't see too much coming from that sort of strategy, unfortunately. But I'm fairly sure almost everyone else is cleansed now, basically, with this safety car period after that critical lap number.
Times like this, I like to look through the field and see who has a surprising gain from how this all unfolded with the second pit stop. David Kirby, maybe, in 15th. 10 positions up from where he started. Jamie McKnight had already been working his way through the field and remains inside the top half after his second stop. Yeah, so we've still got some impressive movers, and with
some time left in this one. There's definitely going to be more to play out here, that's for sure. More positions to be made. I'm really curious to see how the draft train works here, because at the start of the race, the field got separated a little bit. And we had these little battle packs, but this is going to be one long train all battling it out. I'm sure we'll end up with our packs, but are we going to see some wild moves just to try and get some track position to set up this last stint of the race? If there's some people wanting to make up some more positions, potentially try and jump onto the podium when you've got an opportunity, I'm sure Wayne Walker will be keen to make up a couple of positions after dropping a few with this safety car period. So there should be some interesting racing out there.
Apparently we will be going green shortly. I try not to be inflammatory or anything in this, but do you see a reason why the top 4 cars on track right now don't get a drive-through penalty?
I can't see a reason why. Frankly, I won't go into too much detail, because obviously we're just working off what we have, and we're trying to unpack it as much as anyone else. But certainly there was some confusion, and they passed the safety car, and this situation has disadvantaged some drivers and it's advantaged others, and I think that needs to be looked at pretty seriously before the end of this race.
I think it's a coincidence that 2 of them are from the same team.
I declined to comment pursuant to my Fifth Amendment rights.
I think it genuinely is a coincidence in that point, based on Talyancic and Sanderson were out of position on a different strategy, and I think where the safety car went and where the leaders were has sort of caught them in this. Ross and Lobb are in a different situation as well. So obviously we're not restarting right now. Race control just have a few tiny more things to tidy up, but this might be the last lap of the safety car, which would see us going with 21 laps to go, and we will get a green flag restart. 21 laps to go at Daytona.
Yep, this will be an interesting one. Cold tyres, relatively full cars, and just to our point, just to our point as well about some of the stuff that's gone on, I reckon there's going to be some pretty hot heads out there at the moment. So hopefully everyone keeps their cool and can get out there and get some good racing done. But I can imagine certainly any of us involved in a bit of a confusing situation like this one would be a bit frustrated. So we're nearly there, and we can... and here we go. We've got the Zoom wall up just to see how everyone's doing, how everyone's checking in. And everyone, we're all looking pretty happy. The Dino's still pretty relaxed there. We're only at 100 beats per minute, so safety car level of heart rate.
Yeah, under 100. It's real chill stuff for Dino. Couple deep breaths.
Just a Sunday drive.
Oh, Gallon.
Everyone looking.
Gallon's got 1 FPS there, though. Oh, he's back.
Oh, yep. There he is. I was like, oh, don't tell me his internet's about to go. That only spells bad things for his race as well. So he came back. Everyone looking pretty locked in, I reckon. I think they're ready to they're itching to get back racing. We don't come for safety car periods. We come here to race hard and race well. So I will just point out at the moment, just while we're under safety car here, the top 5 are all Mustangs. Now, I don't like to fuel parity talks, and I know in iRacing there is no such thing, but in NASCAR, they have a big divide between all their manufacturers in Mustangs, or in their Fords and Chevys and Toyotas. Do we see the Mustangs work together here as a bit of a cheeky trick to keep ahead? I don't know. I'm just trying to fuel speculation.
Yeah, all the manufacturers have their own simulators, and even from the IndyCar side, all the Chevy-powered teams have access to the same driving simulators and technical stuff as Chevy-powered NASCAR teams do, and so those sort of shared resources that are provided to the teams, they are then sometimes requested or suggested to work together. There goes the safety car. Jordan Ross will lead us on the restart ahead of Darren Lobb, Taliancic, Sanderson, Wayne Walker in 5th ahead of Michael Stewart, who hasn't stopped. Ken Latta down 7th, John Latham 8th, Troy Stonestreet 9th, and Dean Logsdale 10th. Safety car racing towards the pit entry. When it's in, Jordan Ross has the opportunity to restart this field and restart this race. 21 laps of Daytona International Speedway road course to go. Safety car is in. Jordan Ross is waiting, holding that 80 k's an hour for the moment. And the race and the restart is in his hands.
Yep, now we just wait. It's a tense wait. He's not picked up the throttle yet, just cruising along. Yeah, it's so weird seeing them go so slowly when usually, obviously, they're absolutely hoofing it through here. We're coming around now to what would be known as the restart zone in NASCAR, and they're off. Just as I say it, Jordan Ross has got an excellent start there and is off. Lobb has Taliancic right behind him, but Ross is he's done a blinder. And he's off down into turn 1 now with nothing to worry about. And Lobb will start to chase him as the rest of the field begins to enter turn 1.
We are away in racing. Jordan Ross waited for that restart zone, and restart he did. Darren Lobb just behind him, as they were in that middle stint of the race, but a reverse of how they were in the first stint of the race. Jordan Ross, he's redressing this, I reckon. Him and Taliancic are redressing this to Wayne Walker, but if Darren Lobb doesn't do the same, then it'll put us into an interesting situation. It also creates a bottleneck beside the dog leg. I respect that. I respect that a lot.
I completely agree, David. I was just going to say the same thing. You could run away with this and have made it a great race for Synergy, but instead they've done the right thing and recognised that there was an issue that they got advantage out of through no fault of their own, and that's a bang-on move from both Taliancic and Ross there, so well done to them. Curious thing will be to see if Lobb does it on the next lap or so, but yeah, look, full respect to the Synergy guys there for making that move.
I have a lot of thoughts about this. We are racing once again. This is only the one of the JWM cars, so no Travis Hunt. I believe just Jeff Thomas. He runs 13th at the moment. David Kirby behind him's gained 11 spots. Mike Taliancic behind him, 25, but beginning to redress back to where he believes he probably was before the restart. Wayne Sanderson doing similar there. You see him letting a few cars through on the front stretch.
And we're just hearing race control make a few swaps as well in position, so they're beginning to understand what's happened and requesting that cars swap positions, which is probably the correct thing to do, as opposed to offering out a drive-through penalty or anything like that. Like, let's just get it back to what it should be and then go racing. And it's good to see that that's what's unfolding at the moment. But what it means is we do still have a bit of a race on here with Walker and Ross, and as we are looking at the standings here, Ross still on top, Latta, Lobb, Walker. We've got the championship contenders all here in this top 4.
Problems for Walker, he's dropping back. So Wayne Walker drops back behind Jordan Ross. I think he's had a moment. He's lost more than a second on this lap as Wayne Walker. He was 1.5 seconds behind Darren Lobb. Now he's 2.8 seconds behind Darren Lobb, and as that's happened, Jordan Ross has gone back through into second place. Is this a mistake, or is this deliberate from Walker, thinking that Ross could catch Lobb? Would have been turn 6 coming out of the horseshoe, surely.
Yeah, that was about the right time. We're just going to have a look here and see. So Ross has got the run here onto the back straight in NASCAR turn 2. Here we go. So Walker's ahead here coming into the second horseshoe. He's gone defensive.
So Wayne Walker into 6, runs wide, runs very wide. So, he does just clip the tyres, but I think he was lucky and will get away from that one. So that was an error. Definitely an error from Wayne Walker just there.
Yeah, and luckily, if you hit that wall with any sort of ferocity, that is good night, Irene. That is the end of your night. So Walker's done well to get the thing turned and still stick with Ross here. But now Ross is ahead, and Walker, if he can stick with him, what we go forward is this Tim Nicol off the circuit again. That looks like the international horseshoe there. So he's just been on the blower to race control, requesting a review as we have the replay now.
A lock-up. It's marbles. And it's a spin, and he does it all by himself. In the words of Radiohead, you do it to yourself.
Yep, nothing to... No one else to blame for that one. Unfortunately, with these high-powered cars on a track with a bit of dirt and lots of marbles, pretty easy to do at this point of the races. Now, we've switched into the bus stop here, side by side with contact. That'll be a slowdown there. This is Taliancic getting involved in all of this as well with Dan Hall. And who is that? Jamie McKnight, excuse me, sorry, 13 positions up. But bit of bumping, and he'll have a slowdown to give up there now as Taliancic continues to work his way through after giving up all those spots to redress that safety car situation.
So Taliancic, Dan Hall, Stacey Boyd there now alongside. Around the outside of turn 1. There's so much marble build up, and it's so slippery offline through here. Complicated stuff.
Yep, so we're hearing McKnight may have to redress this one.
Darren Lobb's behind Wayne Walker. Has Lobb had a similar mistake, or has he also redressed Wayne Walker? Jordan Ross from Wayne Walker from Darren Lobb is your top 3 heading onto the speedway. Let's take a look at Lobb, which is apparently easy for me to say, in towards turn 1 from the lead of the race. Is that a lockup?
That's a long way off track there.
Gigantically off track. Nearly cutting the infield is so far off into the runoff that he went. So he's now back up into second, so he's just stuck a pass on Wayne Walker since. We're trying to look...
There's no locked tyre there.
Weird. Maybe it was deliberate. Because then he's taken a run at Walker and tried to pass him into the... Was there a nudge there? On the way into the international horseshoe, was there a nudge there? The battle is on. Lobb and Walker losing time. Ken Latta right up behind them. Jordan Ross leading this race by 2 seconds with 17 laps to go.
Yep, as Michael Stewart has also come into the pits there to complete his final pit stop a bit later than everyone else. But Ross is back where he belongs after a long stint kind of sitting behind people and drafting and fuel saving. He's now back up in first, but it's all to play for second, third and fourth here with Lobb, Walker and Latta. There is still plenty going on, and particularly with those drafting games. So I'll be curious to see. This is all going on. So Damien Cairns is very slow here, which is holding up the field into the international horseshoe as he locks up 2.
Greg Sharp was also going a little bit slowly. We're mainly up to speed in this section of the field, sort of 20th on back as we look at it here. Michael Stewart makes his final pit stop, and he'll drop to the very, very tail of the field, having not stopped under safety car when almost everyone else did. Looking at what happened for Damien Cairns in turn 1. So he is gonna get a bit of a tap.
Yep, a bit and then some on that one. I think Sharp just expected that to open up a bit more. Cairns did actually a really good job to keep that tight and defensive. and unfortunately the gap didn't open as Sharp thought it would, and that's Cairns around. So we're back to live images now. So this is Walker and Ladder. So Walker's dropped off the back of Lob a bit here. Actually, Lob's gotten back past Walker. So Walker just doesn't seem to have the pace at this point of the race with about 16 laps left to go. And now Ladder is looking to try and snatch a podium away after a strong outing in Mosport. He's got some fire in the belly yet to show in this race.
Fun quirk of iRacing that in an official session, your surname goes on the windshields. In a league session, your iRacing league nickname goes on the windshield banner. So Kenneth Latter's iRacing name must be something other than Kenneth Latter for it to put his full name on the banner.
That's a really good pickup.
Another quirk is vis-a-vis gridding cars with no qualifying time based on iRating. You could set a session with these cars as a Formula Cars session, and it would then split the grid based on their Formula iRating, not their sports car iRating. In fact, you could set this as a No, I don't think you could set this as a dirt oval session and have the grid set by everyone's dirt oval IR. But there's a few little quirks to setting up these sessions like that. Darren Goosey gets an extra N on his league nickname.
You gotta love it. Darren Goosey is down here racing for 31st, but hey, look, I guess we just throw a lot of love to the admins that set this stuff up, because it isn't as easy as what it seems as Scott Mackay goes around the outside of Darren Goosey there. Down 25 positions, Scott Mackay. It has been a rough old night for him, but yes, just back to that point, this is not an easy job for the admins to do. It takes a lot of time and effort, so a lot of love out to them, even as simple as just choosing the right class of license to make sure your server's set up correctly. It all comes down to the details. So looking back at Dean Flavel now in his super cheap auto Mustang there, with a big slide on up 2 positions at the moment, with Scott Mackay hunting to try and get past and make up some of those lost positions so far. Looking very racy as well, Mackay.
I was looking for the inside of 6, now he's looking for the outside of 6, and there's no room out there to no one's surprise, to be honest. But he'll try to get a good run onto the banking to continue to make some spots. Puts him in a difficult position. Let's play Guess the Dyno, and I reckon since dropping down to about 95 on a safety car, we're probably back up to about 110 right now. What's your guess?
Yep, I'm gonna go 114 beats per minute. Drum roll, please.
Oh, yeah, it's way up. Yeah, it's higher than I would have expected. You could have prices righted me and gone 111.
I know. I mean, I finally got one on the board. I think it's like 1-3 at the moment. You're winning, so I'll take that. But I guess he's in the middle of this battle pack here with Mackay harassing the back of him as he's trying to make moves on. Is that Allman? Excuse me. Sorry, I almost said Logsdale. Luke Allman. Oh, there's contact there. Mackay on Flavel. Oh no, he's spun. The heart rate's going to go up now.
Yeah, surely, particularly if he looks in his mirrors and sees all those other cars running by. It absolutely will. Oh my goodness, it has jumped up to near 130 as he's had a tiny bit of car contact and then got out onto the marbles, spun and seen everyone nearly clipping him. That is such a heart racing moment to be in, and it's done exactly that.
Yep, some unfortunate contact there. While we were playing against the Dino Dino. We saw in the background there, Greg Sharp got a black flag penalty for his role in that Damien Cairns incident with the spin at turn 1. So Race Control acted pretty swiftly with that one. And we'll be curious to see how they go with this that Dean Flavel incident as well that we just witnessed.
Those rears are mighty hot for him. He's lighting them up into the braking zone, sliding them up coming out of the corners, and needs a second, maybe the banking, to cool them off. Since the safety car restart, it's all incredibly densely packed through the field for everyone except Jordan Ross, who leads by 3.5 seconds. Darren Lobb, Wayne Walker, Ken Latta, a three-way fight for the 2 spots left on the podium. Getting ahead of John Latham, 5th. Troy Stonestreet, Dean Logsdale, Logan Barnett, Stephen Banks and Stephen Kennedy as that group of the top 10.
And now we're looking at Michael Taliancic with David Kirby and Chad Lewis behind him in this 3-car battle pack for 12th. So Taliancic, even with some of the confusion there with the safety car and that redressing that he did, still up 28 positions. Mega effort from him tonight, and just to point out, with the drop rounds taken off from the start of the broadcast that we showed you, he's up in the top 10 of the championship well and truly. So comeback drives like this are critical to maintaining, I think it's even a top 5 performance at the moment in the championship, so well done to him. But it's not all over yet, with Kirby and Chad Lewis still right behind, and this draft at Daytona stronger than ever. But Lewis is looking a little more racy on David Kirby as a little bit of a quirk. The safety car has repairs required with the meatball flag, so somebody get the tow truck out there. We might need, the safety car might need some help.
And for those of you with your very own McLaren 720S at home, make sure you don't let it idle for any more than 15 minutes and 30 seconds. That's the advice I'll provide you. Looking at Kirby and Lewis.
On board as well with our Zoom walls, so always great to see these on boards. You know, I've said it time and time again, I love seeing these, their different setups and how they go racing. So here we go, looking back from Kirby at Lewis. David Kirby's looking pretty relaxed, just taking it on. No super threat yet with the sequential shifter as well. And then we've got Lewis on the right there with an excellent setup. The setup of my dreams with those 4 screens there. I think our favourite timing as well with JRT up the top as they're battling it out on track at the moment.
You download the latest update so that driver licenses don't display incorrectly on the timing page. That's another great Joel Guez Enterprises JRT update for you, available this week.
Remind me to message you when I need a quick lowdown of what's going on with Joel Guez and his JRT.
I don't know if it's pronounced Joel, or I guess Noel is pronounced like that, but that's got a diacritical mark on it, so maybe I'll have to go back and study the French language and naming conventions. Kirby still just ahead of Lewis in this group.
And look how tight 2nd through 4th is here at the moment. And funnily enough, 2nd through 4th in the standings are 2nd through 4th in our race. So Lobb, Walker and Latta are battling hard at the moment. And particularly Latta and Lobb are tight on points. So any position Latta can get will get him just that little bit closer. Latta will get further away. So this is very interesting. These guys are championship contenders. They are fighting for the top positions here. And on track, we're seeing them dueling it out. As in the background there, Scott Mackay has gotten a penalty, I believe, for that incident with Dean Flavel that we were watching.
Live standings, not calculating any bonus points on your screen there, or at least not calculating this round's bonus points. Jordan Ross from Ken Latta from Darren Lobb, so close between Latta and Lobb, who are 2nd and 4th and part of the same group on track at the moment. Scott Mackay serves his penalty. I've been noticing on the timing exactly how close it is between 2nd, 3rd and 4th, and I wonder if Latta has something to do in these final 10 laps, because even this group not particularly pulling away from Latham or Stone Street. It's kind of forming up all the way between 2nd and 10th.
Yeah, those gaps are tight, aren't they, compared to what we saw at the start of the race. No one has been able to run away too much, and the draft plays a role in that, but we haven't got that pack racing all the way through the field with those little packs. Everyone's just staying just attached. As you can see here, great view here out the back. Excuse me, sorry, watching as they come through the bus stop here. So we're on the back of Lob's car looking back at Walker and Ladder and the remainder of the field behind them, but excellent to see how they all flow through that section, but all very close. So with the draft, I have a funny feeling we're biding our time a little bit at the moment, because you don't want to make any crazy moves just yet. When you get to 5 laps to go, that's when you really start to go, all right, we've got to get this thing done.
And everyone made their final pit stops. Then we had an extended safety car. So I think too much fuel saving is probably out of the window for everyone. Which is why I'm surprised we're not seeing more moves than we are. Lob defended the inside. Walker follows him. Ken Ladd around the outside ends up in the marbles. So it's a little bit beginning to happen in this group, but not able to get past Darren Lobb if they want. And I suspect if Wayne Walker has a bit of a look at Darren Lobb and gets alongside, Lobb is in a position that he could get freight trained here. But then the opposite is if Wayne Walker goes for a move and doesn't stick it, he's the one that will get freight trained. So run off turn 6 onto the banking could be very important. This is a corner that Walker has got the braking wrong for, but he gets very tightly to the apex, tight on the exit. Should let him get to full throttle, spool up to speed, and stay close to Darren Lobb to put some pressure on. Next time around into towards turn 1, you know, we're into the final 10 laps. Everyone's probably past needing to save too much fuel. Walker's picked up a bit of damage on his nose, so maybe he has gotten a bit closer to Darren Lobb than I've been thinking as well. The shift from 5th into 6th gear that really ramps up the power of the slipstream. But it seems like Latter's the one who's got the most, and so he's got to think, what am I to do here? And down and towards turn 1, Lob from up high, points down on towards the banking. Walker down low, fending off Ken Latter. And once again, you're looking at this group into turns 1 and then into the hairpin, thinking, is someone about to make a move? Because it's not happening just yet. And as all of that happens, Jordan Ross towards a 7-second race lead. Who can be an opportunist in that group? Can it be Logan Barnett, who's already the most spots gained? Could it be John Latham from 5th? This is the race leader. Again, he'll probably have no qualms and no worries about how much fuel he needs to save. He can probably go flat chat out there, whereas that might not have been an advantageous position to be in the first or middle stints of this race. Battling for position. There's Michael Whiting just in behind Brad Doble.
Yep, really starting to throw the moves now. With less than 10 laps to go here, we're really starting to throw the car around, try and find a way by, get the run here, not quite into the draft again. You can do a bit of side drafting with these cars, but no, he'll have to sit in the draft from behind and see if he can make a move work.
No pushing his end plates. So it says on Brad Doble's rear wing. Through the Le Mans chicane we go. Past beautiful Lake Lloyd. of all of the lakes. It's one of them. Darren Lobb's dropping backwards. He's gone from second as he overshot the braking zone again. Wayne Walker to second. Ken Latta to third. John Latham also goes through. Oh, and then he's so deep on the brakes into the horseshoe here. They're going to muscle around poor Troy Stone Street. Sorry, is that who it was? Yes, it was. And now we've got a massive checkup right here. Surely we've got to go back to the start. What's happened for Darren Lobb? And that's really caused the side-by-side racing that's led to yet more contact.
Yep, that's massive there. Lobb had been looking the goods for that second place as we go to the replay now. So all's good here. We're coming into the braking zone at turn 1 where Lobb did go wide earlier to, we thought, redress. Oh, he's locked the rears. That's an excellent save. So he's lost positions but hasn't spun the thing. But in doing so has created an almighty block in the track and managed to get down the inside of Stone Street, only for Logsdale behind, I think it is, to lock up and into Stone Street.
And Barnett sneaks around the outside of all of that. So I think the look down the inside, relatively fair from the recovering Darren Lobb, but as Logsdale's followed him in, Logsdale's done it a bit too hot and made the contact that's half spun around Troy Stone Street. All of that beginning with a mistake in the braking, the pressure finally getting to Darren Lobb, and in that battle for third in the points, Latta versus Lobb, this creates quite a swing in favour of Ken Latta, who's now into a podium spot. And we'll go back to the live pictures with Latta in third, Walker up into second, but for how long? Here comes John Latham down the inside, kicking up a little bit of dust. Latta needs to hold some of these spots, I reckon.
Yeah, just
sure he will.
No, talk about a sleeper. Latham has just been biding his time all race long, and now has rocketed to third with only a handful of laps left to go here. So that's an excellent move from Latham, who's in a fairly good position in the championship too. So, and it's clear he's got the done. He looks like he's got some pace to burn here. So Walker might not be safe from John Latham.
It's all that speed you get by not letting anyone push your rear wing end plates. That's just a tiny bit wide, but you can recover in turn 6 because it's all about the exit for Wayne Walker. Your minimum apex speed becomes relatively irrelevant once you're onto the banking here. It's all about how smoothly do you get to power, because then you get to power and you stay on power for a long time. Race Control, with more work than I think they expected to do this Thursday night, have yet more to do with car contact happening in this final stint. There's battles everywhere. Stephen Banks leads the group for 7th. David Nash leads Stewie Hall, John Gallen and Mark Poynton.
Yeah, not a bad recovery for Poynton there after that contact that sent him through the pits over speed and got him that iRacing speeding penalty. So back up to 23rd, which is you'll take that on a night that's not been ideal. But now we're on board here with, I believe it's Jonathan Gallen, yes. So coming out of the bus stop, he's locked in, he's got his fingerless gloves on, so it might be a little bit chilly. I'm not sure where he's from, but in Melbourne I'm certainly feeling the chill, so I can appreciate that. But now trying to get in the draft as ahead of him. The battle is on, and he might look to take the spoils of this because it's we're going up and down. He's going to go up the track to try and get a bit of draft. Now he's splitting the middle. That's what I mean. Everyone's starting to look for positions. They're wanting to make those final moves before the end of this one, as we're only 6 to go now.
In an incredibly difficult braking zone in towards turn 1, 210 kilometers an hour of braking from your speed on the straight to your speed at the apex in a curved braking zone where you hit a bump coming off the banking and onto the low part of the racetrack, and then an incredible amount of marbles building up on the outside of turn 1 as well. It all spells a super challenge.
Absolutely. And sorry, I've just noticed Latham got by Walker.
So he has up into second place.
So Latham with just an absolute burst of pace off the back of Darren Lobb's mistake at turn 1. We're going to go to the replay here. So Latham is in the draft here of Walker. Goes around the outside. Bit of side draft action there as we're coming to the start finish line. He's going to clear this thing before turn 1. and that's second place. So Latham had been sitting in and around 5th place for pretty much this whole race, and now has rocketed up to second place in, I think, what will be one or if not his best finish of the season if he stays there. And now Ladder is going around the outside of Walker.
I do wonder if Walker's got a bit of damage on that nose. A few times Ladder's been around the outside here and it hasn't worked for him. There's just the fraction of car contact. Darren Lobb on the preferred racing line. Now Walker super sideways. Ladder will probably get his spot back. Now Walker's trying to defend from Darren Lobb. All happening in the top 5. Gigantic lockup. Marbles, grass. Walker losing spots. Here comes Barnett.
I think I need to get my heart rate monitor up because I think I could rival the old Dino after watching that action. My goodness. So after all that, Ladder's in 3rd. Lobb has made up a position to go into 4th, and Wayne Walker is the big loser out of that one, is now down to 5th, unfortunately, after some really promising pace and strategy earlier in the race. But yeah, wow, you couldn't write this one. There has been that much gone on, so it looks like he's settled down. But Logan Barnett's up 9, and he's thinking he's smelling the top 5. He's going to want to go for this, I reckon.
So a yo-yo through the field for Walker, and lucky to be able to brush it off and keep going. Brushed a bit of the grass there, but it'll probably be a 1x, but not a slowdown. As he came out and onto the banking, it's Jeff Thomas in 11th, ahead of Mike Teljancic in 12th. Telly with a whole heap of speed right now, so I guess Thomas is just going to stay low, try to have the inside for 1, but if there's enough of a speed advantage, they might just swoop around you. Oh! Geez, that's contact at 300 kilometers an hour coming across the start-finish line. Thomas tried to come up a little bit. Teljancic tried to come down, and the two of them met each other across the start-finish line at north of 290 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, that is some very willing racing there from Thomas and Teljancic. Well done to both of them for keeping it on the track, but that's that was crazy. That's all you can say about that. But Teljancic another position up, so up 29 after wrangling his car into turn 1 on what looked like it could have been an overshoot, and looks like he'll keep Jeff Thomas at bay here. But what that's done as well has brought Kirby and Lewis right into this battle for 11th through 14th position.
So many battles to be decided in these final 4 laps. John Latham ahead of Ken Ladd, ahead of Darren Lobb. Wayne Walker trying to hold off Logan Barnett right now. Stephen Banks with Troy Stonestreet, Dean Logsdale and Stephen Kennedy, and Barnett looks like he has a car in absolutely perfect condition and is looking for the perfect opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And Walker's looking a little bit beaten up. We just saw him then have a wiggle out of the bus stop. And Barnett, this is a great view now. Look at that draft. I reckon he'll go for it here with three to go. It'll be, I think, 2 to go. Potentially, no, excuse me, 3 to go this time around. He's around the outside of him. Will he get it done? Walker's still got a bit of inside there. No, Barnett's going to close the door on him. He's got it done. Barnett into the top 5, up 10 positions in what's been a spirited drive from him. And now to chase down, if he can, Darren Lobb up ahead.
Millimetre perfect, or as they say in these parts, 1/32 of an inch perfect. A couple more spots changing hands here. McKnight looks like he goes ahead of Wayne Sanderson, Stacey Boyd just behind, and Burridge, who had the longest first stop, a quicker second stop, is just 19th at the moment. Back in behind them, Scott McCune and Brad Doble. And Christian Smart, Greg Sharp, Dean Flavel just up the front of that as well in 32nd. Sharp looks like he's got the same damage that Wayne Walker does.
Yeah, there's a few. I think there's a few noses bent out of shape out there, and I mean that figuratively and literally on these cars and drivers tonight. Definitely some damage to the front, which you wouldn't think it does too much with these cars. Obviously, not relying as much on downforce, but it definitely makes an impact, particularly when you just need a bit more front grip. You will feel that if the front is damaged like that. So Greg Sharp there, and we did look at Christian Smart, who despite blowing his engine is still up, I think it was 5 positions on where he started. So still not a bad effort as we switch back now to Darren Lobb in 4th place. John
Latham's got a real gap in 2nd place, and it's all about 3rd, 4th, 5th. They seem to be costing themselves a little bit of time. Lobb's trying to come back at Latta. Logan Barnett's closed on the both of them. Lobb gets it a bit sideways. Well, Latta runs it in a little bit deep, and I think a lot of these drivers on this run now starting to feel some tire temperature. That's a late move down the inside. They're going to bang doors in the International Horseshoe. Darren Lobb will look to get ahead. Ken Latta will give him nothing for free. The dogleg is next. A fast left-hander, tough to go side by side in any car. Impossible to go side by side in these cars, surely. Ken Latta tries to get the spot back. Lobb dives down on the brake. Latta closes the door and will get sideways and sent off the road.
I kid you not when I say my jaw dropped through all of that. That was some excellent racing until Latta got shifted there, but wow, late race antics, and unfortunately ended in Latta being sort of pushed off the track there. But Logan Barnett will be licking his lips. He's eyeing a podium here. And that'd be a great result for him. Latta's managed to fold back in here, but unfortunately has lost what'll be 5 positions out of that and dropped off the podium. And keeping that sort of blue steel look there at the moment as he looks to finish the race, but I can imagine there's a lot of thoughts going on in his mind right now.
With you, Logan Barnett is going to be a chance for a podium, as it's all gone off in the final couple of laps. Jordan Ross is about to start the final lap now. One more tour of Daytona International Speedway's road course. John Latham 10 seconds behind him in 2nd, but who's going to join them on the podium? That's Lobb looking defensive, has had some troubles breaking into turn 1 before. Logan Barnett was perfect some of the times that we've looked at him. Lobb just half a car width wider than he might like to be. Wayne Walker used the slipstream well, and he's right with them too. This final lap, are there any good overtaking spots left?
Look, now that we're through the International Horseshoe, you've really got to consider probably the bus stop and trying to muscle your way through there, particularly because Barnett's fallen just a little bit off the back of Lobb, or it's going to be the outside of the bus stop, NASCAR turns 3 and 4 to the line. And that'll be for all 3 of these guys to try and get something going. So watch this space, because I think we're going to have a pretty full-on end to this one, which has given out front John Latham and Jordan Ross in 2nd and 1st some nice breathing room. But now we come through NASCAR turns 3 and 4. Barnett gets a little bit squiggly onto the banking. Lobb's got a pretty good gap here. We'll have to see. There's some big gaps to fill in with just a bit of draft.
There'll be 1 or 2 spots that come down to the drag race to the line, as often happens on this configuration of Daytona. Jordan Ross won't need to worry about it, and John Latham in 2nd negotiates chicane for the final time. It's all about the exit, the side draft, the positioning here. We know who's going to be first. Jordan Ross is going to take another win in RaceKraft V8 Vets. Pure performance from him in this final stint. John Latham looks like he'll be 2nd, but Lobb and Barnett are going to be so close. Barnett's got the run. Lobb's going to give him 1 car width around the outside. Barnett won't lift, and I reckon he'll get his nose in front for the podium. And I reckon he will. He'll take it. Yes, he did.
Has he got him?
Barnett got him. Round the outside with the toe from the bus stop. Logan Barnett passes Darren Lobb and races onto the podium. There's a couple of others that'll transpire like that through the rest of the field as well. You'd want to keep your eyes on the checkered flag.
That was excellent there from Barnett, but we'll chat about that in a second as we've got another Miller and Stewart Hall Side by side, Miller, I think, has gotten that one as well. So the drag to the flag did not disappoint there for our podium, and Barnett earning a podium through a hard-spirited race out there. So did really well to keep it clean, and honestly, that's a different looking podium to what we've seen this season. Obviously, Jordan Ross on top, but Latham and Barnett second and third. Correct me if I'm wrong, are they new names to the podium this season?
Certainly rare to the podium, which has been Ken Latta, Jordan Ross, Darren Lobb sort of lockout at times. I mean, what a finish. It's what you want from Daytona. And Miller might have had a slowdown on that final lap is why he was dropping back. This is how they crossed the line, which is all we can tell you for now. Jordan Ross from John Latham peeped the margin, Logan Barnett to Darren Lobb, 0.005 of a second. Logan Barnett beats Darren Lobb, beats Wayne Walker. Stephen Banks, Ken Latta, Dean Logsdale, Troy Stonestreet and Stephen Kennedy completing the top 10.
So now we're on to 11th with Jeff Thomas, David Kirby 12th, Chad Lewis 13th, Taliancic 14th after his recovery drive, although dropped a few positions there towards the end. Daniel Hall 15th, Jamie McKnight 16th, Wayne Sanderson 17th, Stacey Boyd 18th, Christopher Burridge 19th, and a great recovery for Mark Poynton in 20th after some of the issues he had earlier in the race.
Chris Miller finished 21st, just ahead of Stuart Hall and Jonathan Gallen. Then Scott McCune, Brad Doble, Darren Goosey, Michael Whiting, Luke Allman, Scott Mackay and Gary Buckland.
And rounding out our field tonight, we will have from 31st down, Christian Smart, Dean Flavel, Michael Stewart and David Nash all finished on the lead lap. Then we go to Bruce Tannick 1 lap down, Greg Sharp 2 laps down, Stephen Varga 3 laps down, Damien Cairns 6 laps down, and then Darren Crosby and Tim Nicol way behind there. And that rounds out our field of 40 for tonight at Daytona.
So 40 laps to be a classified finisher, and Tim Nicol had 36, Darren Crosby had 42, so 39 classified finishes from Daytona. Taking into account most of the bonus points, this will be the championship standings. Jordan Ross, Ken Latta ahead of Darren Lobb, Wayne Walker just behind them in 4th. He's been on the podium a couple of times this season, actually. And then Dean Logsdale, Mike Taliancic, John Latham, helped by some of his finishing results today, ahead of Scott Mackay, Stephen Banks, and Mark Poynton. Will be interesting to chat with some of our drivers, which hopefully we can do momentarily. Absolutely. Let's go to 3rd place, Logan Barnett. Well, congratulations to you, Logan. Lots of positions gained in that final little stint post-safety car, and a couple of positions gained before that. 12 spots gained and onto the podium is a good day.
Yeah, it was good. I probably benefited from some other people battling, but I'll take it.
So then what did you feel with these cars, this weather conditions, the stints that we did? Obviously, long braking zones for this car at any track, especially the kind of high speeds that we get at Daytona here.
Yeah, I really struggled in the first 2 stints because I didn't really do any race runs. So kind of learned how to look after my tyres a little bit by the 3rd. And then, yeah, it wasn't so bad there, but I really killed the rears in the first 2.
And racing wheel to wheel for that podium with some guys that have been on the podium plenty of times this season, like Darren Lobb, like Wayne Walker. The secret to passing, was it patience, consistency on the brakes? What was the method?
Yeah, you have to be pretty patient in these cars. I find you can't really, you have to sort of set up a run and Darren on the last lap. I think he had a bit of damage, so he was a bit slow on the straight. So I sort of knew it was easy. Well, the best bet was just to wait to the last lap, and I'd be able to get him around the outside there. So luckily, that worked.
Yeah, sure did. Let me just double check something real quick here. Yeah, Logan Barnett, congratulations. You're the Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day.
Oh, cheers, man. I'll take that, and thanks, Chubby Buns.
Yeah, delightful. Not too many races left for the season. So, what's the thoughts on what's the thoughts on how we're going to bring this one home?
Yeah, the start of the season was a bit average. Sort of struggled. So really just try and get some good top 10s towards the end.
Well, a great podium. 12 positions gained. Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day. And also the highest place in Camaro. So you can hang all of that on your shelf tonight. And we look forward to seeing you again in RaceKraft V8 Vets.
Cheers, man.
You'd have a few things on the car here for 9.5 SimSport that you'd want to thank, surely.
Yeah, so all the 9.5 guys working well together, RaceKraft, RSW Graphics, Racing Ears, and Track Days.
Congrats.
Awesome. Thanks.
So Logan Barnett was third, and just one spot ahead of him, Brock, was John Latham in second.
Yes, he was John Latham. Welcome to the comms box and congrats on a great result tonight, mate. Tell us, I'm really interested to hear how your race went because I didn't predict you getting up on the podium, particularly in such a dominant way as you did. How did the strategy pan out from the start of the race? You started fifth. How did you weed your way through to kind of get that second place?
Well, I think I was a little bit lucky that the guys in front decided to have a battle when they did. It gave me a bit of an opportunity. Apart from that, it was pretty boring. I was just about falling asleep on the safety car for a bit. So yeah, I just came in, put 90 litres in, and then when that safety car came out, I was and ahhing whether it'd make it, but yeah, pitted anyway, obviously because you'd pit anyway. And I just filled it up, and by the time with everything that happened, I had more than enough fuel to burn to get home. So I just put my head down and just tried to not cook the tyres because I've been finding I'm really bad with cooking the tyres on this car still. So you know, it just causes obviously mistakes every now and again. So still relearning a bit of muscle memory with basically V8 supercar compared to the last car. And yeah, it was a good race. Like I saw the guys battling behind me. I just really, once I got past them, I tried to put in like as close as I could, as safely as I could, kind of more qualifying style laps. And especially into turn one, I tried to brake really as late as I could and really make the guys behind me in the tow brake that late as well, which I knew would probably send them wide, which eventually did. And that kind of freed me up towards the very end there. You know, I got freed up a bit as well, but then I made a mistake and brought them back in again, which I was spewing about. But anyway, yeah, it was a good race. Just tried to hold that gap towards the end, drive smoothly, and congrats to Jordan and Logan. Unlucky to the other guys who were battling in that pack, who were riding there with a chance. It's just that's the way the cookie crumbled this week.
Yeah, and I'm really curious to ask, mate, are you gelling with this car? Because you've just sort of knocked into the top 10 of the championship, I think, if we consider drop rounds, and this is an awesome performance coming towards the end of the season. Do you reckon you've unlocked what you need to really drive home hard and get a great result out of this championship?
Yeah, a little bit. I've been working hard on driving and also equipment setup. Obviously, I have electronic pedal, so a brake pedal. So yeah, there's about a million things you can do with it and a million different wrong ways you can do it. And I finally got to a place where I feel a lot more confident in braking the car into heavy braking, because there's that fine line between, like, you don't even need to lock the tyres, you just need to brake too hard and it heats the front tyres up, and then you've got no turn in. So definitely, I think I'm starting to gel a bit more, probably catch up, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with my driving. It's getting a lot better than it was, you know, like probably at the start of the season.
That's great, John. And look, we were mighty impressed up here in the comms box as well. Before I let you go, mate, is there anyone you wanted to thank or shout out?
Yeah, I'd like to thank all the guys in Shadow Racing. They always provide some entertainment, some good banter, and it's good to have everyone's input into the team there. So that thanks for being there, guys. Also, like to thank RaceKraft. All the guys down there have helped personally myself out a bit, sourcing parts and whatever. Always great customer service down there. And great rigs if you ever go just for if you're in Perth and you want to just have a blast on a killer rig, it's always a good spot. I know they're doing some stuff with sim rigs as well. Also, you guys, thanks for the broadcast. It's always very professional. I'd also like to thank everyone behind the scenes, especially race control tonight. I know they had some tough issues, so thanks for really controlling the situation well there and getting us back on track. And also for the drivers that were out of place, there was a couple of guys. Also very sportsmanlike for them to kind of let people through and fall back through the field. So all in all, Vets is a great league.
Thanks, John. Those are some very kind words all around, mate. We really appreciate it, and I'm sure the V8 Vets admins do as well. Congratulations on your second place, and we look forward to seeing you back out on track next week.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And I think that just leaves us with the top man of the night, Jordan Ross, David, who had yet another dominant display.
Yeah, Ross the Boss joins us again after another race win. Regular scheduling resumed after Mosport, but I'm going to guess this didn't feel particularly straightforward, Jordan.
Yeah, it was a bit of chaos out there. Tonight it was quite slippery in the early laps, and it was just about in those first, that first stint or whatever, it was just about trying to save some fuel and make sure that by the time we ended up at the end of the second stop, I'd build a bit of a fuel advantage. It was not as straightforward as probably it seemed.
Jamie Wincup's got 7 championships. You're gonna have 1 or 2 soon. You learned anything from watching his racing? He's definitely in about 20 leagues higher than me. I rate him as the best supercar driver of all time. So I'm nowhere near that in this iRacing, definitely. But I've actually been jet skiing and stuff with Wincup back in the day. I used to sponsor him back when he was Team Vodafone Holden. So actually know him a bit. And when did he tell you don't pass the safety car, it doesn't pay out?
Yeah. Well, he did do that at Bathurst one year. So, it was a bit of a weird one that there was no call or anything. There was no message or anything. I think half the field were a bit confused. I did see the safety car. I was thinking I was probably going to get a penalty. It was just, I'm not sure how many cars ended up passing the safety car. I'm not sure what happened then, but easy one to do. I've been in race control and made that same mistake before with not having it on race control. So I'm sure they'll fix it up for next week and it'll be sweet.
So a couple of the guys talking about the really long braking zones here and the challenge that gave to sort of not locking the rears, not locking the fronts, and then you've also got so many sort of traction zones out of slow corners as well. What was the feel across a stint? And there were some sort of long stints here, it being a 300k race.
Yeah, the first stint, it was quite slippery, and you just had to, because I was in the draft behind Lob, I was able to just cruise, which was helping my tyres, and he was probably using his tyres up a little more than I was sitting in his draft. But, mate, as the rubber went down on the track, it actually was pretty good at the end. The braking zones and stuff had plenty of grip, and the car actually felt pretty good right at the end.
Well, 300k's later, you're the winner at Daytona. Congrats, and give your thanks and shout-outs as you need.
Just thanks to SimSpeed, all you guys, for turning up each week and doing this, and thanks to the organisers and the competitors, and shout out to Wayne Walker. He had plenty of speed tonight, and a bit unlucky not to probably end up on the podium tonight. So thanks, guys.
Whole podium joining us after incredibly adventurous 300 Ks of Daytona. The final spot on the podium being decided in a drag race photo finish at the checkered flag. Brock, we can't wait for more.
Yet again, V8 Vets delivers an excellent race. I found it exciting. I think everyone else did as well, and you can't ask for more than a photo finish at Daytona International Speedway, I don't think. So glad to be here and looking forward to the next one.
So it won't be too long before you join us again for more RaceKraft V8 Vets from Interlagos in a week's time. Actually, pretty damn good car track combination at Interlagos, and another place where I've seen a drag race or two from the final corner to the checkered flag. You won't want to miss that one, and it could be just as spicy as tonight was. David Haynes with Brock Cadday and Daniel Yeaman in the production from the Speedway 300 for RaceKraft V8 Vets. Thanks to everyone who supports the championship: Logitech G, Nova Sim Sports, Parramatta Isuzu Ute, Player One Sim Gear, LGC Images, Chubby Buns Burgers, of course, and SimSpeed. See you in a week's time in Brazil.